Kamala Harris recently delivered a speech in Washington, D.C., and I must say that it was probably the best speech she's given her entire campaign. But if you end up getting anything out of this video, please remember to smash that subscribe button. I am a brand new creator trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I would very much appreciate your support. Now, I've already said that I think the best thing about this speech was it was delivered in the exact location where Donald Trump tried to subvert American democracy. And during the speech, Kamala Harris clearly laid out the stark contrast between her and her opponent. She made things abundantly clear that this election is about chaos versus freedom. Now, I've already done a video about how Kamala Harris framed this entire race, how she laid out the choices that we have this November. So I'm not going to touch on that. Instead, today I want to look at some of her policy proposals, because that is one of the things that we hear most, is that nobody knows what she's going to do. She doesn't have any policies. When that couldn't be farther from the truth. So today, let's watch this economy portion of the speech together, and we will discuss along the way.
We are not going back, because we also know Donald Trump would deliver tax cuts to his billionaire donors. I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class.
Kamala Harris is promising to cut taxes for over 100 million Americans, and she's promising not to raise taxes for anybody who is making more than $400,000 a year. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is talking about extending his tax cuts that he did back in 2017, and he was caught on a hot mic in front of his rich billionaire friends that he was going to cut their taxes, and he laughed about it.
I will make sure you have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because I believe in honoring the dignity of work.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has bragged about how he never liked to pay overtime, and he would do whatever he could to avoid that. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, understands what a hard day's work means.
I will enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries.
Many people framed this as price controls, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. Kamala Harris is talking about implementing price gouging. This is something that already exists in many states. She just wants to make sure that big corporations aren't taking advantage of Americans by hiking up prices when they don't need to.
Cap the price of insulin and limit out-of-pocket prescription costs for all Americans.
The Biden and Harris administration has already made it the $35 insulin cap. They've pushed that through. They've also started to negotiate on the 10 most popular drugs that Medicare deals with, I believe. And so she is promising to extend that work and expand upon it.
I will fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live.
She's talking about setting a goal of building 3 million houses in her first term as president. So this would, in theory, bring the prices of housing down because there would be more of a supply. She's also talked about that $25,000 down payment assistance for new-time homebuyers.
I'll never forget how our mother saved up and how excited she was when she could finally afford to buy our first home. I remember how excited she was. And I know that owning a home is not only a measure of financial security, it's about the pride of your hard work. And as president, I will fight to help first-time home buyers with your down payment, take on the companies that are jacking up rents, and build millions of new homes. For years, we have heard excuses about why America can't build enough housing. Enough with the excuses. I'm going to cut the red tape and work with the private sector and local governments to speed up building and get it done.
Now, she is very clearly targeting moderate voters, slashing red tape, cutting down the bureaucracy. This is good politics and a good idea. There are many places across the United States where the regulatory environment might be a bit too burdensome, so if she can come in there and cut some of that red tape, it would be good for a lot of Americans.
And the cost of housing isn't the only financial pressure on middle-class families. I have met so many young people who have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do it. So I'll fight for a child tax credit to save them some money, which will also lift American children out of poverty.
You got to remember, when the Biden administration expanded the child tax credit during the pandemic, it cut child poverty in half. In half. And then the Republicans blocked that from moving forward. So all of that child poverty that we brought people out of, they fell right back into.
I'll work to lower the cost of childcare, which is out of reach for too many working families today, and for too many people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of a parent. Juggling all of it is extremely difficult. You know, I took care of my mother when she got sick, cooking food that she had a taste for, finding clothes that would not irritate her skin, and understand, as I do, that caregiving is about dignity. It is about dignity. And currently, if you need home care and you don't have some money to hire someone, you and your family need to deplete your savings to qualify for help. That's just not right.
She is exactly right there. If you have more than $1,000 in assets, Medicare or Medicaid can come after those assets if you are trying to get help with something like in-home care.
So we're going to change the approach and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home care so seniors can get the help and care they need in their own homes.
Now, this is such a huge deal and could be such a great thing for so many families here in the United States. If anybody has had to deal with taking care of their mom or their dad or maybe their grandparents, you know that getting somebody in the home to try to provide care is wildly expensive. So if Medicare can help with those expenses, that just means more money back in Americans' pockets. It would be such an excellent thing for the American people. Let's go ahead and move on to one of the next big thing that people care about in this election, and that is reproductive rights. Kamala Harris is going to be the only candidate who is fighting for those reproductive rights. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has pretty much shown contempt for women and brags about overturning Roe v. Wade. So let's go ahead and listen to Kamala on the reproductive rights.
And I believe in the fundamental freedom of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies and not have their government tell them what to do. I will fight to restore what Donald Trump and his hand-selected Supreme Court justices took away from the women of America.
It is absolutely insane to me that women and girls today are living with fewer rights than their parents or their grandparents. That is unacceptable in the United States of America. We should be progressing, not regressing. We need to establish Roe v. Wade. We need to codify that into law and reverse such a harm that has been done to this country.
That today, 1 in 3 women in America, think about it, 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. The idea that a woman who survives a crime of a violation to her body should not have the authority to make a decision about what happens to her body next, that is immoral. That is immoral. And Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide, restrict access to birth control and put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025 and read the plans for yourself. And look, I think we all know one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to simply agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body.
She is exactly right here. If you do not want to have an abortion, then don't get an abortion. If you believe through your faith that abortion is wrong, then don't get an abortion. Nobody is forcing anybody to have an abortion. And that is the exact right argument to make. Other women should not be deprived of their rights just because some people believe their own thing or their own way about it. That is just ludicrous.
Not the government. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom nationwide, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. Proudly.
So obviously, Kamala Harris is the only candidate that is going to be fighting for your reproductive rights. She is working to reestablish Roe v. Wade as the law of the land, something that is durable, something that is crafted in law instead of a dictate by this extremely conservative Supreme Court. So if you care about reproductive rights, if you care about being able to plan your family on your own terms, Kamala Harris is the only choice. And we'll go ahead and take a look at one last policy issue, and that is the border and immigration. This is one of Trump's strongest issues, but I still believe firmly that Kamala Harris is going to be better on both of these issues. So let's go ahead and take a look.
And look, on another subject, politicians have got to stop treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in an election. And instead treat it as the serious challenge that it is that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need. At the same time, we must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants.
And remember, folks, Donald Trump is promising mass deportation. He is trying to, or wants to, evict 20 million people from this country. It would be an absolute stain on the United States. It would be immoral. It would be a disaster. Not only would it affect our economy, but it would be a bloody and terrible, terrible thing. You would have armored vehicles rolling into neighborhoods, knocking down doors, and tearing children away from their parents. That is not something that we do here in the United States. We have to be compassionate. We have to show our humanity and not just round people up and put them into camps until we can deport them. That is unacceptable in the United States, and that's exactly what Donald Trump is promising.
And I will work with Congress to pass immigration reform, including an earned path to citizenship for hardworking immigrants like farm workers and our dreamers.
Now, obviously, if Donald Trump was this America First candidate like he claims to be, he wouldn't have killed the bipartisan border deal that Congress wrote. It would be one of the strongest border bills that we've seen in a generation, and Donald Trump stepped in and told his cronies to kill it because he wanted this issue to run on in the 2024 race. It is absolutely unacceptable, and it is unbecoming of somebody who claims to be looking out for Americans. You cannot claim to be looking out for Americans when you are the person who is standing in the way of making progress at any given issue. So these were just a few of the policy ideas that Kamala Harris has spoke about. These are her flagship ideas that she is running on. I will try to remember to link all of her policies in the description at her policy page, but I highly recommend you go take a look at her policy page and read through some of the things that she wants to do for this country. Because contrary to popular belief, Kamala Harris has a very good economic agenda. She has ideas that will move this country forward. And on the other hand, we have Donald Trump, who is promising mass deportations and across-the-board tariffs that are going to hurt Americans. So on every single policy issue, Kamala Harris is the better choice. Hands down, no question. So these are the things that we should remember when we go vote in November. I'll leave it there. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. Like I said, I am trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to see my other video about this speech Kamala gave on the Ellipse, where she framed this race in such an excellent way, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.